It offers a non-contact sport option for wider ranges of students. And then my main point that I really want to get across to all of you is that it allows students who did not start sports at a young age to be able to feel included in a sport. When I was younger, I really didn't do many sports that I could really stick with. A lot of people have been doing things like volleyball for their whole life since they were just a little kid. People that haven't been doing that, they can just jump right in because not many of us have been doing nothing either, so we can all be starters together. And lastly, it encourages new friendships, teamwork, and school involvement. Me and Kaya actually became to be really good friends over a track season. Hopefully, this practice will look cross country and all sports starting in the 2026 to 2027 school year. Thank you for your time and consideration. If anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Do you have an idea of how many, like it's you two here, but is there another? Cool. Wow. Good job presenting, by the way.
Yeah, nice job.
I commend the gals for a start, because Winona State there, well, actually Bob Lang, one of the wrestlers too. I could never only go for one sport, wrestling. So my dad finally left me my freshman year when I started at Bob Lang, wrestler went too. And it always got us in shape for wrestling. Well, then I went to college. I lettered at Winona State. And then, you know how they do for basketball coaches and assistants when they bring them in, great basketball coaches. They stick them with the head cross country coach. So guess who had to run the practices when Les Whitkey brought Bill Reynolds in? And boy, I tell you, we had a great bunch of kids. They're just like those soccer kids. So they love the sport. You guys love to run, and boy, I'd be all for it. But obviously, I'm only one vote too. So. And I don't know, should I say is the money there for the 2,800 Erky?
I mean, 28,000.
28,000. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's always a matter of perspective, but yeah, I mean, we could do a bunch of different things, but I think it would probably be a good idea to bring this to the activities committee to discuss it more. Well, I don't know, this is maybe a bad thing to ask, but I would worry that it maybe would take away from other sports. Is that a consideration or discussion you guys have had?
How many people on that list do you think do a fall sport already? Okay. Not that that's a huge deterrent, right? Like if kids prefer one sport over another, I guess, but I was wondering the same
Is
thing.
there a varsity and JV, and how many can be at varsity and how many can be at JV?
I think it would just depend on how many people that would be on the official team there would be. But I think if we were to have enough people to be able to do different JV and varsity, then it would be middle schoolers on junior varsity and high schoolers on varsity. That's how track's set up too.
It's like volleyball, you could only have 6 on the court. But I know for my daughters, who's 11th grader now, when they were younger, they had 16, 18. And it was a hard thing to juggle for a coach to get all those players in. If they maybe had an option, maybe they would have ran cross country, knowing that they could participate and play, as opposed to maybe getting relegated on the bench or getting less playing time.
As a former cross-country runner, typically teams are 7 for varsity and for JV.
Dan will coach too.
Volunteer.
I don't know. I guess I shouldn't say too much, but I'm just thinking of healthy kids. And if there's an opportunity to get a bunch of kids running numerous miles a day, there's other things to consider. That's why I say I don't want to say too much. But I think everybody's would love to see a bunch more kids running around. So
For sure. All right. Well, thank you very much. We'll have the activities committee, which is Chad and you there. The activities committee will hash it out. We'll figure something out as quick as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda here is the school audit report.
All right, I have Luke from Clifton Larson Allen who's online.
Wait till I can get him up on the big screen so he can present.
I wonder where that 28,000 comes
And I'm
from.
gonna apologize ahead of time, Luke. I don't know if you can hear it, but we have a very squeaky fan blowing in the background. So I apologize for that.
I mean, transportation, I guess, and fees to.
Well, it comes and
Like our
goes.
SHSL.
So I also want the sound to go through there if I can. Is that?
Yeah,
34 grand, right? Not even-
jerseys are cheaper than heck. Kids buy their
Doesn't
own
matter.
tennis shoes. That's where there's gotta be like some hidden fees that I haven't thought of before. You know, like registration.
Zero.
Yeah.
Maybe they're thinking like track flies, hurdles and pole vaults.
Yeah.
Okay, did
It's
I
gotta
lose you,
be.
Luke? Where are you?
I'm
Jimmy,
here. Can you see
was,
my screen?
American
Yes.
State. Did you know that? Jimmy Leslie?
Was he really?
Yes. I shouldn't say all
So
American.
the only-
I think he ran for Ohio State.
Only thing right now is I'm hearing myself. Give me 1 second.
Must have
How do I do that?
Should have kept it.
Try now, Luke.
Okay. Maybe you guys probably can't talk to me, so,
Still
Yeah.
I'm gonna, I guess, chat me if you guys can't hear me or see me screen. But otherwise I'll just kind of start and then chat me if you want to stop or just go through. Obviously, I'll straight away. And then if there's any questions, yeah, just shout out right away. Otherwise, we can talk through it at the end. All right, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Luke Graydon. I am a principal here at CLA. I've been here for about 11 years now, working in the school district, industry with Minnesota, exclusively Southern Minnesota School District for that entire 11-year career that I've had here. So I'm out of our Rochester, Minnesota office. And yeah, happy to be here to present to you guys virtually tonight. I appreciate flexibility and kind of sneaking me in before your other presentations tonight. And other one of the meetings tonight to get to as well. So again, I appreciate the flexibility to be able to present this way and go through. So with that said, I'll just dive in here. Again, you guys should be seeing an audit summary page now with the audit opinion at the top. You can't see it, shout out, but otherwise I'll just assume you guys can see what I'm seeing. So, all right, so we have not officially issued the final financial statements. We're just kind of working through our final review process. Not uncommon for this time of year, but we're pretty close. So we expect to kind of get that final sign off here just in the coming days. So we're in a really good spot. And expect to be, right there. So with that said, when we do get to that point in a few days here, we will be issuing what's called a clean audit report. So that just means the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. As we go through our audit, we have to look at a number of different areas, as far as, financial reporting and then also compliance. So the one finding that we have is just the efficiency and internal control or financial reporting finding. Kind of a mouthful, I know. But that finding is essentially kind of a boilerplate finding. All it's really saying is that the district is depending on us at CLA to put together the full financial statements, specifically all of the notes for the financial statements. There's a lot of words in there, a lot of standard requirements that have to be updated every year and things like that. And so basically you're kind of pushing that responsibility to kind of prepare that to us. And that's what that finding entails. It's something that we give to a lot of the audits that we do and a lot of the school district audits that we do. So certainly not something to be concerned about, something that's been there in the past and continue to be. So really no worries at all there. As we go through our audit, we also have to look at a number of compliance areas, governmental yellow book compliance, as well as Minnesota legal compliance. As Dave gives us kind of a laundry list of checklist items that we have to go through and make sure that you're in compliance with different areas. And so with all of that said, no issues or concerns in any of those areas. All right, so the only, we had a current year change in how we present the compensated absences liability on the government-wide financial statements. It was just a standard change that we had to account for and adjust with the help of Barb. Doesn't really affect anything in the end, doesn't affect the fund level statements at all. It changed and increased the liability on the government-wide statements a little bit, but again, just on that government-wide side, not affecting fund level. It's really just changing how we kind of estimate that a little bit, but again, not really anything to be concerned about, just something that we had to adapt for and add some new wording in the notes and things like that, within our financial statements. All right, so with that said, I'm gonna dive into some numbers here, the fun stuff. So our general fund, unrestricted, presentation larger, sorry, just saw that. Don't know if we can get it any larger, Craig.
I got it squared away on my end, Luke, we're good.
Oh, okay, perfect. I was gonna say, I was like, it was on my full screen. I was like, how can we make this be a little bit bigger? But okay, I appreciate that though. I'm happy you guys can see it's good now with the numbers. All right, so general fund, unrestricted or unassigned fund balance. Sitting right around that 1.2 million has been relatively steady over the last few years. Overall in the general fund, you have budgeted have about a 325,000 decrease, but ended up needing about 460,000. So a nice year overall. Had some increases in some assigned fund balances, which we'll talk about in a second, as well as some restricted fund balances, which we'll talk about in a second. The unassigned fund balance kind of staying, essentially steady, just a slight decrease of about 12,000 there, which is sitting right at about 11% of your total expenses. So just comparing your unassigned fund balance, your total expenses for the year, sitting right around 11%. And your policy calls for somewhere between 8 and 16%. So you're kind of right in the middle there at that 11%. All right, so your general fund assigned fund balances. So this is money that management has kind of looked ahead and said, hey, we're going to spend X amount of dollars on curriculum or X amount of dollars on a new heat and things like that. And so basically kind of earmarking those fund balances. So you have this money and have this fund balance, but instead of leaving it unassigned, knowing that these expenses are coming up, you're again earmarking in this assigned fund balance. And so that's what assigned fund balance represents. For relatively stable, really over the last 4 years, there's been some up and downs and things like that. But what's in here this year, you added 200,000 in for curriculum. So that's at about 400,000 or so. But overall, beyond that, you have about 800,000 in here for capital projects upcoming, some smaller amounts in student support, severance, and iPads, 450,000 in there for technology purchases, and things like that, 175,000 for track resurfacing, and then 2 million for a larger heat pump replacement project that is expected to be forthcoming in the coming year. So that's what those assigned fund balances are representing, sitting in at just under 4.2 million. All right, so this is general fund restricted fund balances. So this money is dollars coming in from the state that is earmarked, has to be used for specific purposes. It cannot be put elsewhere, cannot be used for anything else. It has to be used for those specific silos programs as the state kind of lays that out. So a little bit of an increase here, about 200,000 from last year. Kind of just depends on, you got the revenue coming in, what expenses are there to kind of use those funds. But sitting in here this year, you do have some student activity funds and scholarships. Those are represented here. Those obviously don't come from the state, but they are in that restricted category. But beyond those, you have kind of a variety of restricted fund balances for student support, literacy aid, basic skills, staff development, the new READ Act, and then QComp as well. So it's kind of a wide variety of restricted fund balances that can be used for future years. All right, so this is your operating capital fund balance. This is same concept, money coming in from the state has to be used and is restricted for this specific purpose. This one you've got basically been spending down every year. So the money comes in, you spend it all out, and therefore it's been sitting at that zero, which is just fine. You guys can, if there's any kind of overages, which there was some this year, with more expenses than there is revenue, then you can support that with those assigned fund balances and or unassigned fund balance as needed. Long-term facilities maintenance fund balance. So the last one, the general fund, again, money coming in from the state, restricted for purposes, specific purposes here. So this year, kind of, I guess, finally got back into green, right, at 170,000. Really way back in 2020, there was a really large boiler project, 650,000 or so that really hit LTFM. So you can see that huge negative, almost 400,000 in the negative in 2021. And that happens with this one sometimes. It is allowed to go negative. It does ebb and flow based on the 10-year plan that you have in place and just based on timing of when large projects come up. I mean, obviously, something like a boiler project isn't always necessarily planned, but hopefully it is. But either way, that's what happens with this fund sometimes. And so if you have a larger project, sometimes end up spending maybe more than what is here. And then, but revenues continue to come in each year. And so you can kind of build that back up. And that's what you guys have done here over the last 5 years. So again, really no huge projects coming out of these funds over the last 4 years. Just been kind of building that up, having some expenses, or about 100,000 or so of expenses on just some smaller items in the current year. And then, about 270,000 or so revenue came in to kind of, again, jump that up to that 170 that we're at the end of the year. All right, so get into a few of the other funds. So this food service fund balance sitting just over 300,000 at 308,000, down a little bit from last year. It's been very healthy fund balance here really over the last 4 or 5 years. You had budgeted to essentially break even, ended up losing that 16,000 or so. Revenue down about 30,000 from last year. Expenses are up a bit from last year, but there was about 58,000 of capital outlay or capital purchases within that expense number that kind of caused those expenses to go up and kind of lose that, quote unquote, lose that 16,000 in the budget. So there was a fridge purchase and then a larger walk-in freezer that were kind of accounting there. So if you kind of take those out of the equation, you would have been a little bit more maybe where you would have expected. But again, this is a really healthy fund balance for this fund. It's really can support this fund, and you have that ability to get a few of those capital items. And so overall, just a really healthy fund balance number here in the food service fund. And I guess one other note I should say too, you'll notice in 21, obviously it's 140, and then it really jumped up, right? So we kind of see that across the board. Has been with all the districts we work with, it's been trending upwards and just a lot higher than it was 5-6 years ago. Since COVID, obviously, there's been a lot of funding changes within this fund with federal dollars coming through for meals and then state dollars coming through, and just a lot of shifts there. And so with that has caused just overall, some increased ability to really support this fund and bring in that, that government supported revenue to kind of, again, support the fund and move it into the future. All right, so community service fund balance sitting at just under, or just above negative 200,000 at year end. You had budgeted to spend down about 80,000 this year, actually spent down 40. So it was a little bit better than expected as far as that 40,000 decrease. Revenues did go up about 120,000 from last year, while expenses went up 40,000. So you did have that, at the, your net for the fund, obviously you can see went down 40,000. The net increases to both revenue and expense, that net accounted for 80,000. So that's good to see that you kind of increase that revenue, but the expenses didn't correspond and increase as well. So you do have positive fund balances in the ECFE program and the school readiness. You guys, as I'm sure all of the board members know, started the new daycare. And so that's kind of driving what this graph looks like here over the last few years. It's a very large project, there's a lot going on there and kind of working on that, right? So, more to kind of work through, of course, but that's just essentially where we're at sitting at the end of 2025. All right, debt service fund balance. This one's, just not a lot going on in here. Kind of the main processes of this fund is essentially to bring in the levy dollars and then make your scheduled debt payment. So you have the levies set out for future years based on your bonds and other and levies. And so that money comes in, your debt payments go out. So the balance itself will ebb and flow a little bit, just depending on the timing of the payments, how much the payments are coming off the levy as well. So that can ebb and flow, but again, it's doing what it's scheduled or made to do as far as making those debt payments every year. All right, and then this is the capital projects fund balance. Basically, I've had no activity with this fund, with these funds in the last 2 years, just a little bit of interest that have been earned. These are kind of some leftover funds from back a few years ago, from the 1-day bonds. Essentially, just a little bit of extra funding that hasn't been used up yet. And so, something that, you know, as a few capital projects come up in fiscal year 26 or maybe fiscal year 27, these funds can kind of be drawn on first and get used up first before you have to start diving into your LTFM or your unassigned fund balance or some of those assigned fund balances in the general fund. So just, again, just a little bit left over there from those bonds back in the day to be used in one of those types of purchases. All right, so back into the general fund now for really the rest of the presentation to look at kind of revenue and expenses. So this one here, general fund revenue, just under 11.5 million in the current year in the general fund. This is just essentially showing where the money is coming, right? So you can see about just under 80% coming directly from the state. You got that 12%, coming from property taxes, and then you have some other, and then the federal sources at 1.4%. Property taxes went up a little bit, about 100,000 or so, and then state did go up 300,000 or so as well. Interest has been higher, you know, over the last 2-3 years than it was maybe in previous, so that other partially is due to that. But the state number, of course, is kind of the biggest ticket item there, 80%, by far the biggest portion of that pie, with our revenue coming in. And again, a pretty big increase here. Part of that is some one-time grants. There's a solo project. So some of that revenue is kind of one time, but still pretty big jump in state revenue in 2025. All right, so this is your general fund expenditures by object code. So again, 11 million of general fund expenditures, almost exactly. Looking at where that money is being spent. So obviously, as you can imagine, large majority of this amount is just going directly to salaries and benefits within the general fund. So 72.25% going directly there. Overall expenses only up about 215,000 from last year, so pretty solid there. Expenses, you know, do continue to rise with salaries, other things like that, and so overall a pretty steady expense, you know, kind of expense line items really across the board in the current year. So this is that same 11 million of expenditures, but split up by program code. So a little different way to look at it. This is looking in a little more detail what programs it's being spent on. And so regular instruction of the students, that's right around that 40%. Special education of students, that's about 20%. Those are, you know, obviously by far the two biggest pieces. If we add up our regular instruction, vocational, special education, instructional, and then pupil support, you get about 78.25%. So that's to me saying, okay, you're spending 78% of your total general fund expenditures directly on the instruction of the students. Basically, it's not overhead, not buildings, capital, not admin. That's 78. That's a really, really strong number. Good to see. I would say average is usually mid 70s. So you're kind of up there in the high 70s. So again, just putting money towards the instruction of the students. One thing to note, just the one kind of change we saw within these different programs this year that are kind of out of the ordinary. Transportation costs did go up about 200,000 or so from last year. And so that's within that pupil support. So that last year was like at 9% or something. So that did jump up a little bit. But overall, the splits are pretty steady over the last few years. Right, so general fund revenue and expenses, just dark blue being revenue, light blue being expense, just really steady over the last 5 years. You know, kind of nothing that really, you know, just nice steady little rise of revenue and expenses as well. Like really expenses, very nice little trend line going up from the last 5 years. So revenue, you know, maintaining there though, you know, staying above expenses every year, just, you know, even if just by a little bit. That's really good to see, being able to, you know, kind of manage that and make sure you're not having a year where, you know, you see that expenses go up a lot and revenue doesn't rise up to kind of get there with it. So good to see kind of that trend over the last 5. This is your ADM, so basically students served for over the last 5 years. So you have been trending downwards a little bit, but overall been relatively steady. In talking with Craig and Barb, I know you guys have had a few larger classes graduate here the last 2 years, and so would kind of expect and hope and just kind of project out that over the next 5 years, hopefully it kind of stays pretty steady in 600, 700 range. So that's, really great. It doesn't sound as exciting as seeing big increases in enrollment, but big increases in enrollment doesn't really happen anymore that we've seen. So if you can, maintain steady, that's a win. And so hopefully, again, yeah, there's a few drops over the last 2 years, going from 705 to 7 and then down to 694, but relatively small. And again, had some bigger classes. So hopefully you can kind of maintain those. And hopefully that, the daycare kind of helps with that too, kind of keeping and bringing families into the community and all those good things. So overall, relatively solid numbers here, and some kind of hopeful projections into the future as well. Right, so these last 3 slides I have for you guys, this is looking at expenses within the general fund in a few kind of key areas and then comparing it as on a per student basis. So that previous slide, I'm at about 700 or so students. The 5 dark blue bars, that's your district, taking total costs in this area divided by the average, or divided by the number of students for the year. The light blue and light yellow slides on the right, those are similar size district average and then state average. And note, those are a year behind. So those are 2024 averages, not 2025. All right, so this first one is basically all of your admin, district and school admin and support services. You can see, really 23 and 24 kind of stick out as being higher quite a bit than 2022, of course, and then also 2025. And so what happened there is the last fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24, you had a dean of students that was fully funded by COVID dollars. And so you had that revenue coming in to support it, but you also had the expense going on, of course, right? So it's essentially a wash as far as net bottom line, but the expenses had hit this area, the admin. So in 23 and 24, that's where those dollars are sitting, and that's why you're seeing such a big number there the last 2 years. If you kind of take that out, you kind of see a more steady, increase of cost, kind of as expected, right? Going from 1.3 up to 1.5, it would have just been more of a steady graph. But because you have those kind of one-time expenses in 23 and 24, it looks a little higher. So if you took that out, you would have been certainly below your similar size district average back in 2024. So overall, pretty solid numbers here. All right, so regular instruction of the students, certainly has gone up a bit over the last year. You can kind of see, I believe, we had, obviously there's quite a bit of a jump from 21 to 22. ADMs had gone up a little bit, down a little bit, so that kind of changed that. But overall, expenses this year were very steady, so just down just a little bit in this area. So didn't see any huge changes. And in the previous year, there was a little bit more going on, had a little bit more expenses. I believe it was a contract year, so we saw a little bit bigger of an increase in salaries and things like that. But again, just overall pretty steady. You do expect these costs to continue to rise overall, and had a 1-year blip this year, but you kind of expect those to continue to go up. And staying just a little bit below similar size district average, but kind of maintaining along with that as well. So overall, solid numbers here. And then finally, your special education costs. These have continued to rise. Very common slide. All costs are going up, as I'm sure all of you know, but this area, costs are really going up, and we see that, kind of throughout the clients that we work with. So we had about 180,000 increase in here overall, and so you can see that, again, have had some bigger increases, a few more higher needs kids over the last few years, which results in more teachers being hired and all of those good things. So you're seeing those costs rise, supporting those students as best you can, and that, when we think back at that expense pie chart, 20% of your costs going to special education, that's a pretty high number. I would say on average, I probably see more like 16, 17% going to special education. So you guys, just having a little bigger piece of your pie going to that area because of the needs of your students. And so you're seeing just, a little bit higher than maybe some of the averages there when you compare it to some of your peers. All right, well, that is all I have for you guys. So again, before you guys go off mute, again, thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Appreciate the flexibility, and I know you guys have some big other things to get to, so I won't take up any more of your time unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Luke?
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Luke's got to present at Spring Grove tonight too, so he's probably on the clock too. So thanks
Okay.
again, Luke.
Covering all of southern Minnesota tonight. Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, well, thank you guys. Any questions comes up after, feel free to send them to Barb and she can get.
Sounds good.
Okay, this would be a motion to accept the school audit report. Melissa moves it. Julie seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0. Student school board report. Sammy or Phoebe, you guys got anything?
Basketball, gymnastics, all pretty well so far. End of the first semester's coming up after this week. We're doing some dress up days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for those. I think there's a choir concert tonight. Yeah.
We got 45 minutes.
7 o'clock.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Phoebe. So for the truth and taxation hearing, we got to close the regular meeting, open the truth and taxation meeting. Then Barb, are you going to present something? And then we got to close it and reopen the other one. So would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn the regular school board meeting? Derek moves it. Lee seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. That motion carries 7-0. It is 6:14. And now would anybody like to open the truth and taxation hearing? Spencer moves it.
Second.
Derek seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 7-0.
Live stream appropriate to keep going if we're closing the regular board meeting, keep it rolling.
Okay. Still 6:14. Barb?
So by law, we have to have a truth and taxation public meeting for any of the taxpayers to come voice their opinion on their tax report that they received. I'm sure that this report's tax levy in the mail.
Don't take the walkouts personally, Barb.
So what goes into truth and taxation, the law requires that the mail notice to all that is all done by the county. You can go to the next slide. The meeting has to be held after 6 p.m. to give people time to get to the meeting. And the meeting has to be between November 25th and December 29th. So everyone's here tonight to go through this process. Here. So this is where we can discuss the proposed property taxes that are payable in 26. And then go over the budget for 25-26, and the public is given a reasonable amount of time to comment on the proposed property taxes for the statute. The revenue, the next slide. The revenue formulas are set by the state legislators, except for the voter approved referendum, and the local levy and state index, except for the state legislation. An increase in the local tax does not necessarily mean an increase in the revenues for the district. The next slide just goes through the process of how the county assessor assessed the estimated market values. The legislation sets all the formulas for the tax capacity. County or auditor calculates the tax capacity per parcel of property in the county. Formulas are set, and then the Department of Education calculates the levy limits for each of the districts. And then you guys approve the proposed levy in September, and after this tonight's meeting, it'll be the final levy that you need to be sent to the Minnesota Department of Education and the county auditor. And then the county divides it all up and that becomes the final tax statement that everyone will receive. The next schedule just shows the timeline. So what we're levying for in 25 gets collected in 26, but is revenue for the 26-27 school year. Next, you can go to the next slide. And this is kind of some of the same stuff that Luke went over, just talks about we have the general fund, we have the community ed fund, food service fund, and the debt service funds that make up the different funds that the school district has. You can go to the budget overview of revenues slide. Have numbers. This slide is comparing our actual 24-25, which Luke just presented for the audit, and then comparing it to the 25-26 budget, and then the different change. And this is just for revenues in this slide. The next slide, pie chart, again, reflects a lot of what Luke just presented, showing where the revenues in the general fund come from. The next slide, again, is looking at this time at expenditures, comparing 24-25 to actuals, which was presented on, compared to 25-26 budget and the changes in that. And remember, we always budget conservatively. This next slide, again, is another breakdown, also similar to the audit report Luke presented. And as you see, the special education is a big chunk of it, and then vocational and regular make up quite some, as well as pupil support. Again, there's another pie chart similar to the audit slide showing how our general fund expenditures are being spent. Some of it's just laid out a little different than the audit. And then the next slide shows our projected fund balances at the end of June of 2026. And you'll see the assigned being a larger chunk of that amount budgeted in the capital gain being zero. Because the amount we receive, we spend more between curriculum and technology. So the next slide just kind of goes through the same thing. The school district really doesn't have a lot of control other than the operating referendum that we go out for a vote for, and the debt service. A lot of it's all set by state formula. And then we also discussed about whether or not the board will do one-time authority for current levy for that. The next slide just talks about factors impacting. So changes could be in the sales ratio, structure, some land could change and how it's being valued, and whether things were district approved or state formula. Again, if you remember the 39-page levy report, it goes through all of the different market value, adjusted net tax capacity, referendum market value, all of the different appraised, categorized levels of tax and how the formulas work on that. Minnesota has a very complicated levy system, and a lot of it is out of our control. So the county will take, basically, we have no increase in our tax levy from last year, but we'll spread it across the tax base for the county, or for our school district within the county. So that slide just shows you how much is for the general of the levy, how much is for the general fund, which is 64%, 3% for community ed, and 33% for the debt service. This slide just compares the actual for 24-25 to the proposed. Basically, our proposed is staying the same as what we're asking you to finalize tonight. So there's a 4-cent difference. Following slide is just looking at some of the changes within the categories that are broken out in operating capital, safe schools, long-term facility, and referendum and other general funds, as well as community and debt service. Next couple of slides, I could read them to you, but I'm feeling it can bore you. Just goes again through how some of the changes are with, if something was homesteaded, now it may not be. Those are all things that can affect individual taxpayers' property tax statements. So the last slide shows you the breakdown and what we're asking you to approve as the final levy. Are there questions for me?
What was up at the 4 cent change?
It was a formula. Couldn't make the 4 cents go away.
All right.
Mr. Trump would be disappointed in you, they don't use pennies anymore.
True.
I couldn't resist.
All right, questions for Barb? Thanks, Barb. So now we gotta close the truth and taxation meeting. So would anybody like to make, okay, Melissa moves that.
Second.
Spencer seconds that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Now we lost one, and it is 6:22. All right, and then we got to reopen the regular meeting. Derek moves it. Lee seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. So 6:22. Okay, so this would be the adoption of the final levy certification. What was the exact amount again? Sorry.
The last page,
Yeah,
$2,511,818.19.
okay. Any discussion? We have a motion to approve or adopt, I should say. Melissa moves it.
Second.
Derek seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. That carries 6-0. No public comment tonight. Consent agenda. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
And now, like, I know Craig put that 3-year prior start there on Labor Day, but have you ever considered maybe just on a trial basis, a year or so, of, working something out? But apparently they're not, nobody picks on them because they're going to the state fair though, from the way I understand, so.
Well, I think now that they understand the
Understand a
policy, they
little
feel a
better.
little bit
Okay.
better about it.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
it
impression I have.
seemed to be when they left too, but I was wondering too, because I mean, I grew up as a farm boy too. Both parents were working 2 jobs and trying to raise a family too, so it does, and it's probably been worse now with all the extracurricular activities and stuff they've added too. So, that's-
Well, bottom line is the application doesn't mean we're approving it yet,
No,
right?
no,
So we
right.
can at least apply for it and go from there.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to understand there, Mike.
You bet. Okay, does anybody want to move that one? All right, Lee moves the consent agenda.
Second.
Eric seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, this is action item A. This is a resolution we establish every year for the combined polling places for multiple precincts.
So move.
Okay, Spencer moves it. Melissa seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. Action item B is also a thing we renew every year. This is via resolution directing administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs, positions, and reasons thereof. Spencer moves it.
Second.
Derek seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Action item C, set the January organizational meeting
We usually do that.
around the first Monday, right? So
The 5th?
would the 5th work?
January 5th.
January 5th would be the option on the table.
6? Lady? Here, I'm fine with that.
6:15.
6:15, I'm fine with that.
Melissa, you good with that?
That's 6:15. Yeah.
Are you good? Craig, you guys,
Did we go to that one last
I
year?
don't know.
or you don't go?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Either way, yeah,
Whatever you want
it
me.
might be in.
okay, okay, so who wants to move that for 6:15? Spencer moves it.
Second.
Derek seconds. So this would be the organizational school board meeting on January 5th at 6:15 Motion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. This will be action item D, comprehensive achievement and civic readiness annual summary report.
I sent this out to you guys in an email a while ago, but we can share it up here too. This is a report we have to do every year. It used to be called the Read Well by Third Grade World's Best Workforce Legislation. It's now Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness. Kind of shows the goals that we set every year and how we did on each of those goals. Does anybody have any questions? You know, we either met all of our goals or there were multi-year goals that we're striving for. If there are no questions, I'll go back to it. But for sure, if you need anything answered, let me know. Otherwise, it's available there for everybody to look at. It's also posted on our website.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the comprehensive achievement and civic readiness annual summary report. Lee moves it. Melissa seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Mr. Wallstrom would like to, I think, present something about the adding Math Wizards advisor position.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it short, but it is a pretty noteworthy thing to discuss if we're adding a position to a contract. But I'm really excited that we are joining what's called Math Wizards. If I'm being totally frank, I'm not sure how we missed this for a long period of time. Math Wizards has been a thing for like 30 years. And it's really a Southeast Minnesota thing. So all the schools around us do it and have been doing it for a while. It's 5th and 6th grade only. Because it's new and that they're separate buildings, 5th and 6th grade, we thought it was a good idea just to do 5th grade this year. You can have up to 2 teams, 5 students each. So a total of 10 students. We do have 10 kids signed up for it. And basically it's the highest achieving math students. I talked with Mr. Haybison right away, and he said he was super interested and wanted to do it. When I talked to him about getting him paid for the time he puts into it, he said he didn't care, which is kind of unacceptable. You know, we gotta do what's right and compensate him, and we can discuss, you know, how much time he puts in and what's necessary. But we have a pretty good idea based on what other districts do. Based on, it's very similar to Knowledge Bowl. It's academic competition. And the best part about it is all the prep time for the 3 competitions there are in the winter. All of that prep time is, you know, your 10, there might be a few additional kids outside of the 10 that are able to like do the practice, so to say, for substitutes and stuff like that. But multiple times per week, these kids are going to be targeted and challenged with more rigorous math than they might not otherwise get. So you're going after a group of kids that often get overlooked, which isn't incredibly detrimental because they're doing really, really well, but it's a great opportunity. And so the MOU part of it is just, we talked with Knowledge Bowl coaches, and I talked to a bunch of other districts, and the pay range is, I would say, I don't know, jump in, Craig, from what you know too, but kind of in that 500 to 1,000 range. There's 3 meets per year, and they're from 3 to 6 o'clock at night in different locations. Some of them are kind of far away. The first meet is actually January 5th, and that one's in Spring Valley, Minnesota. So the kids and coach advisor Jake will have to leave probably 1:15, 1:30, and then they'll be getting back after 7 o'clock at night. one of the events is right in Spring Grove, which is a nice one. And then the third one is, I think it might be Lewiston Altura, but there's definitely a pretty big time commitment there for someone as willing as Mr. Hay Bison. I just don't want us to take advantage of that and get him some fair compensation. And not to mention all the prep work, prepping the math curriculum for the kids.
I'll move on that since I was a fourth, fifth, sixth grade elementary math teacher for several years. But don't ask me for 1 year because we were short of math teachers to take seventh grade geometry. Sharp that I had an A math student to help me get through it, so.
So the 500 to 1,000, that's for the annual.
Yep. And we'll,
We will have to do this, because this would be a contract change, we would have to do a memorandum of understanding with the union to change the contract and add that in a Schedule C position, but
and I think the part, there's in the coaching contracts, there's the salary scale. I think what we were thinking was adding it to the, what is it called? Other activities. I forget how it's worded, but basically it's not a level 1, 2, 3 years of experience thing, but it's kind of that way we have the autonomy to kind of set what we think is that fair amount. And it doesn't follow the schedule, so it doesn't go up each year with experience, so to say.
I think what most of the schools do is about $1,000 that they split between a fifth grade coach
Yep.
and a sixth grade coach. So
I would anticipate us hopefully doing that if we continue it for fifth and sixth grade, but it's a really good opportunity. I'm excited about it.
Like most schools, the kids that do it, to the fifth graders that go into sixth grade, they keep doing it in sixth grade.
I guess I would think so, but I have no actual.
yeah, I used to coach Math Wizards when I was teaching, and then we had it when I was principal in Chatfield too. And typically, there are some kids that maybe bump around, but I would say all of the fifth graders that I can recall wanted to do it in sixth grade. And it's pretty neat experience, similar to like Knowledge Bowl.
Yeah, three events a year. They're all between January and I think there's one in January and then 2 in February, or 2 in January, 1 in February. So it's a pretty tight window, and we're late to the party. We joined Math Wizards the Wednesday before Thanksgiving when I was working, and there was nobody else in the building. So I was just able to actually make it happen. But so we haven't been practicing as long as others, which it'll be interesting. It'll be a little bit of a learning curve. We know just enough about the competitions and how to prepare for it, but hopefully by the third one, we're up and rolling.
Jake said he's in it to win it, though.
He is. I mean, he is, and we got the right guy. And it is. We're going to hype it up to these kids, and even the ones that aren't in it. Competition is really healthy. And then we talked about deciding on that 10 because that's a limit that Math Wizards sets. That's not our thing. Jake was much more confident in drawing that hard line than I was, because I'm thinking, well, I want as many kids as we can. But he's like, well, I have some pretty objective data with our iReady assessments. And then so we identified the top 10, and I believe all top 10 were interested and signed up. If not, maybe there was one in the top 10 that I'm thinking of that may have decided not to. But yeah, it's a cool thing. It's going to be fun. And I'm competitive too. I want to see us take that trophy home, and it'll be fun. So the first 2 events are regional. There's a South region and a North region. So the first 2 events we do are both South region. And then the third one is both regions combined. And there's quite a few districts. So it'll be fun to see how we stack up. And I know if we take a licking this first year and don't perform super well, that Mr. Hay Bison and the Math Wizard crew is going to come back for some vengeance. So it'll be fun.
Accessible to St. John's.
That's a good question. I didn't, that's a really good question. I didn't even consider it. I don't know how that would work. I mean, I would love to say absolutely yes. There's got to be that I can't think of. I'm trying to think of what barriers there would be, but yeah. I mean,
I don't recall any parochial schools ever being in it, but I don't know if that.
The one thing would be the measure, like we're using our iReady data to determine what that top 10 is, and our parochial schools don't use that. So
Good to hear.
That's what I was wondering. Is that what you were asking or?
No, like if you needed a tent.
Yep.
Or stay, leave a slot open for St. John's and one slot from St. Mary's.
Yep.
That, you know, the teacher maybe not using their ICANN because they don't have that program.
Yep.
Would maybe identify a student that would enjoy it
Yep.
and would maybe help the team and excel.
It's a really good idea and something we should look at next year, you know, because this year, you know, we've sent out the sign up and permission slips and the first meet is coming up here, but yeah, that's a really good question.
Ask Kate Lund about that.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, it'll be fun. Keep your eye out for it. And I'm picturing the kids and the ones that are in it. And I'm just really excited for him and Jake as well. And he's trying to get Mr. Mullins to join up with him on meet nights now that he's not coaching football and stuff. I'm hoping he convinces him to go with, and yeah, it's going to be a good time. So.
All right, so do I have it right, Spencer? You made a motion?
I would like that, yes.
Okay, so Spencer, this is a motion to approve the MOU change to the contract that would establish this new position. Spencer moves it, Derek seconds it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. That motion carries 6-0. Okay, action item F, Minnesota paid leave. Craig, do you want
Yeah.
to say something about this?
This isn't something that the board would have to take action on, but majority of the schools in the state are not topping off for the paid leave. Sent something out on this earlier too, but allowing employees to receive full wage replacement might encourage longer absences, and I'm not sure that that's something we want to encourage. They obviously still can use their paid leave. They obviously, have the right to use their Minnesota paid leave benefits as well. And logistically, this would be a nightmare to try and figure out for Karen in particular, but anybody that's doing payroll, I can't imagine the logistics of all this. Even without topping off, it's going to be very difficult, but my recommendation would be to not top off, and that's probably what we're going to do. I just was hoping that the board could maybe make a motion that we not permit the use of paid time off, sick time, or vacation to supplement the Minnesota paid leave.
So move.
Spencer moves it.
Don't, right, Craig?
What's that?
That we will not.
That we will not.
Will
That's
not.
what I wanted to make
Yep,
sure that we
yep.
will not. I'll make.
Spencer moves it. All second it. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Down to 5 now.
Sorry, going to the concert.
See you, Derek.
Administrative reports, Mr. Bowler.
I'm gonna go fast and then I'm gonna speak out for the commissioner as well. One of the things that I just wanted to highlight, I know that a lot of this meeting has talked a little bit about sort of around finances and money and things like that. One of the things I'm well over a month into looking at building next year's schedule. And I just wanted to kind of highlight some of the things that go into this. So one of the things that makes this really interesting for us, we have seen our enrollment decline a little bit at the middle school, high school with these two larger classes that have graduated the last couple of years. So we are looking to right size some areas. But I also want to highlight the importance of, we want to make sure that we keep as many full-time positions as we can. Because it can be difficult to have part-time teachers with the number of openings there are out there. Some of the things that we're starting to consider, or another thing that we struggle with, is licensures. What licensures do teachers have and what can they teach within the programs legally? We have some teachers that go outside and get some out-of-field permissions. I think we had 4 out-of-field permissions this year that I had to fill out. We do an OPP, which basically is a kind of an all-encompassing, so there's a lot that goes into that. The other thing that I'm really starting to look at is class sizes and projected enrollment. So I think I've mentioned it before. we're projected right in that like low to mid 60s in all of our classes 9 through 12 next year. Well, generally they don't get split perfectly even. And if you divide 64 and a half, that's 32. That's pretty easy math, but that could mean you have a 37 and you have a 29 or something like that. I didn't do my math right. Don't put that in the paper. But so we're kind of looking at, what classes could we have some larger numbers in? What classes can't we? When we talk about science labs and safety and some of those types of things. But what's throwing kind of the hiccup in it all is now the number of students who are taking PSEO classes outside of school. Because if I have, let's take 11th grade math, for instance, if I have 64 kids and I have 10 kids that are taking college PSEO, well, now that makes 57, and that cut in half can be 54, cut in half is 27, give or take a little bit. You can still have 2 classes of less than 30. And where we're running into kind of issues now is, I guess if I do my math right, if there's 64, sometimes we have a class of 12 and 2 classes of 25 because of the way the schedule is built. And so it really is extremely complex. But on Monday, John and Craig and I are going to sit down and really try to hash out some different ideas that we have. And that's why I don't think everybody always sees the work that goes in behind the scenes to make it happen. And, when you have teachers that cross between buildings and they have different lunches, that creates issues. We got to work with, there's just a lot that goes into it. And I'm trying to figure out how do we provide the best opportunities and the most opportunities for our students while still being fiscally responsible with it. And so there's, I think there's gonna be a lot of conversations, and there might be some things that, we'll have to discuss as a board moving forward. But my goal is to have some more conversations. We also have some different staff members that I've been in conversations with about future plans and things like that, which could dictate some things as well. And so I do anticipate there being some decisions come January, February that we're gonna have to consider. So if you ever want to talk to me about that, feel free to have those conversations. But I would agree, even based on our calendar meeting, that the PSEO and concurrent enrollment has become a much larger facet into building a schedule than it would have even 7 years ago when I started. So other than that, I know it's already been mentioned, the end of semester 1 and term 2 is coming up. And I think we've had a really good month of December so far. Looking forward to a couple of weeks and then getting back at it in January.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks.
Mr. Wallstrom.
Just a big thanks to Heidi Myrie for putting on an awesome concert. Great deal of work goes into that. One thing you might not see if you're at the concert watching it is the teachers that come to the concert and all the back rooms in the back hallway and managing the kids. And I myself actually didn't see a whole lot of the concert because we're supervising the kids that are in the rooms waiting to go out, and they put a great deal of work into that as well. So all the staff involved takes a lot of work, and we appreciate it. I don't have much else.
All right.
Anything for me? Any questions?
You've
Okay.
taken off on us too.
What's
You've
that?
taken off on us.
Right now?
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh no, I was looking at my watch
Oh,
thinking I could go on and on.
Really get some money out of you. Going on, but I'll wait till that.
I'll stay till the end, even if Gretchen goes on and on.
Mr. June?
Yeah, I really don't have too much the past few weeks. I think I've been in the daycare or preschool almost every day covering for people who are sick or have sick kids. So even had to pull in Craig and Karen on Friday to help out in the daycare a little bit. So they didn't save
What
the
about me?
dirty. Well, you have a kid in the daycare, so it doesn't count if you have it. They didn't save any dirty diapers for Craig, even though I told him. But so yeah, just busy covering, hoping to finish the classes for the next catalog here this week. and really spend time focused on that and finish things up. So yeah.
All right, questions for Gretchen? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Erke.
I'll be brief too. I did enjoy my time in the daycare. Looking forward to grandkids, so it's a good little practice. I want to thank everybody for all the calendar discussions, for bringing up the issues that we talked about. Particularly thankful to Aaron for putting together this document. And I would say, you know, the calendar has something to do with it. But the teachers are really the ones that do everything. But I do think, you know, I do think the reason the scores go up is because of the teachers, but the calendar, I do think, has something to do with their mental health. And I would agree with John that option one is the best for academic purposes. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot.
All right, questions for Craig? All right, thank you, Craig. Barb?
I'll be brief too. I mean, you've seen the audit report, truth and taxation. There will be some things we'll be bringing to the board. Like on the fixed asset policy, some changes that I discussed with the auditors, as well as the capital project money, what we could use that our fund, and then the one-time board approval of one-time authority that you guys can do. So those are things that will be forthcoming.
Okay, thank you, Barb. And old business would be the renewal of the existing operating.
Yeah, and that's something, I sent something out that we do have the option, and prior to when Shelby came that last time, I was thinking it was one time forever, but it's one time per operating authority. So I think it would make sense to renew the existing operating authority for, you know, the 5 years that we can. And then if we feel we need more than that, which is a very, you know, potential possibility, we could always put on something on the ballot to repeal and replace. Other districts, what was the district, Barb, that
Lakeville.
have just done another one on top of it? But I think it would be cleaner to repeal and replace. And instead of, like, right now we're at $460 per student. I think what Lakeville did was added $140. I would be more comfortable and think it would be more upfront to repeal the $460 and make it the $700. Is that the math? Did I do my math right there?
Yeah, you could do something like that. At some point, they'll probably have to.
Right. So nothing that we have to do at this time, but I did want to bring it up publicly that that's something I think we should maybe do in January.
All right, no new business. We'll do board member reports. We'll say Spencer for last. Melissa, do you got anything? Chad? Lee? I'm good. Spencer, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, and before I get started here, it'll only be about 3-4 minutes, but Chad, I forgot that at home. It's been such a hectic week because we finally got moved in at New Albin. So tomorrow I'll see the city clerk and I'll have a new address at New Albin, Iowa, where I grew up close by and stuff. But I wanted to tell you, I had that golf endowment stuff there for you to go over and stuff. I'll be one of your first contributors. And I don't know, Craig and Barb will have to check legally too, to know if they can they endow like programs like I did at college up at Winona State. That was my job. Because I know you need some extra money the way you were talking there last year for the time and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that you're gonna start something. I thought if you started a Ken Vandenboom, endowment or just I don't know if you can call it a scholarship or fundraiser, but I think, as many golf people as we got, and it's probably the most popular leisure time sport of any athlete, I think, and stuff. And I mean, how many people play golf here? Oh, God, I thought Craig was.
No, I have played. I'm terrible, but
Yeah, it's a busy, and I mean, same way, Whitkey was the head basketball coach. He was out recruiting. So I was his coach and I had to take him out. They laughed at me because I was the worst golfer of the bunch. So, beside the point, but otherwise, I think it'd be good, but what I've got is, well, I showed what I on that were, but I had an Alaska, one of my wrestlers ended up being an oil president, so we got about a $250,000 endowment. And then I got another 10,000 for our wrestling coach. And right now I'm at 37,000 trying to get 50. But I also got the men's basketball scholarship at Winona State started in honor of my first cousin, Steve Protzman. So, and anyway, the good thing about starting an endowment is you can't name the scholarship winner, because I got upset. I mean, we're up to 37, when I get over 30,000, it'll be fully endowed. They said it's fully endowed up there, but I wanted to give a Dough Dog one year. Oh no, the committee selects it, so that aggravated me. So, but anyway, you guys don't give scholarships there anyway, but I'll bring that in too. In the simple form to start that, it's only about 2 pages, and you can go over with Craig too, but I mean, I'd be willing to give you a pretty good chunk of change. If Kelly Meyer gets me my share on my house and stuff, but yeah, and like I said, and I had a tough time. I didn't think I would even run this last time, but I don't know. I know why I did, and I know why I probably shouldn't have, but that's beside the point. But so at the end of this monthly meeting, I'll give this to Barb here. I tendered my resignation as a missed the moving process to nearby New Albin, Iowa, and downsized to a tournament. I served for 17 years. My mother always told me to slow down for 64 years. I never listened, but now is the time I'm going to listen to her after she's been gone since 11/11/11. And if my elementary math is right, that's been 14 years. So, Mom, you'll sleep good tonight down there. So, hopefully, you get up above. But anyway, but I had some great people that got me some great starts that I had to. Actually, my superintendent that hired me, the late Cecil Halliday up at Hancock there, and I almost went to Harmony, but the people was so good for me. He told the Harmony superintendent, and I believe he's right. He said, Spencer Yo can teach blindfolded. Teaching is my love and my life, and I enjoy it so much. And now I just want to sub 3 days a week and still be there, on that. And like I say too, and I really had 2 great board members in our board chair, Naomi Prickty and Charlie Ray, the greatest mentors and probably the greatest favorite board members I had. And then, the first superintendents there, like I had, and I might choke up here because I got to know him real well. Barb and Karen liked him too there, but the late Dr. Bruce Thomas, who died on us on May 21st of this year. And can I tell you a funny story? Some of you might laugh, girls, please don't get offended here. But anyway, we had, and too, guys, you get all these young coaches, cut me off if you think I've got to upset the girls here. But anyway, we had, Wheaton had won the district by 2 points. So they had we all have to get young coaches. Sometimes they're only a year or so out of school or 2. They're still like a kid, but anyway, lots of schools have to do it, but we have great ones that help too. I mean, your sons are right in there helping for the stock and that. But anyway, they won it on a heavyweight match. So after the match, this young guy, and he was cocky anyway, because I always hated losing to him when he beat us. He's a good kid. So he goes up and grabs one of the cheerleaders. But anyway, and then of course on May 23rd this year, I had my best friend Jeff Bettendorf in high school and college died. So it's been a tough time, but the doggone migraines, I really, I get them 5 out of 7 times, 5 out of 7 days. I'm up at 3 to 5 in the morning, and I can't do the job justice to even doing what I want to do during the days because of those migraines. I didn't realize how bad they were. I thought I was a tough guy. I could get through in my camp, but Joe Biss told me, and Craig knows him well, Joel's into his second career now. He coached at Chatfield. He won a state title, and a couple other of his teams did real well, you know, to their third and fourth. But Joel now turned to a second profession. He's in nursing. He said, Spence, I know what you're going through. He said, because we have patients that go through those migraines and they have to put him in psychiatric ward. Maybe I should have been put there, but I don't want to go there. So that's going to help concentrate me too and stuff there and everything. And obviously too, I'm going to definitely miss going up with Melissa next week. Seems like we're the two lone soldiers that still go up for that, but I do know everybody's got that time, you know, like they've got the basketball kids playing and all the other sports, but I always did enjoy going up, seeing the people up there, especially Gary Lee, because him and one of my athletes, or Bucky Lindbergh, were best of friends too. So I always got a few stories telling them, but this isn't the place to tell them. So, and that, but otherwise, that's what I'm gonna do. I got a few things to say here yet, but we'll definitely miss the two best ever. Barb and Karen, give them a round of applause there. You guys are great. You're awesome. I will miss you, but I'll say that deal. Okay, I'm getting done here, but I don't know. Like I say, I just go this way because I'm actually thinking about doing a little more time helping the Lord out, because we've got this wrestling sport light, and we work with kids that are culture too, or Christian. So I'm gonna work with those people and stuff a little bit too. And they've got nice T-shirts. They have Jesus on the back and all that. And their coaching books are just like coaching books for athletes. So if you ever need any, I can get them to you. But I'll close here now and probably get a few tears. I've taught the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. You all know that 2 Timothy 1:2, integrity, and you know, 1:7. And I know I've always got hung up on integrity. It's doing the right thing without even looking. So if you remember me for one word, I'd like to be remembered by integrity. I did the best I could. Please accept my resignation, and I'll make the motion to accept it. I just need a second.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Thank you much.
Thank you for all your years of service, Spencer.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Spencer.
Thanks. I love kids. So that's it for me anyway, I guess.
All right, well, in that case, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
All right, Spencer makes it.
Oh.
Chad seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. And it is 7 o'clock.
School board meeting.